Hi everyone, it's Ardith, and today I'm here with a floral thank you card using Pretty Pink Posh stamps and dies. It's what I'm calling an urban take on a very feminine inspiration card over at this week's Split Coast Stampers Featured Stamper Challenge. You can click on the link in the description below to go to my blog and see how I was inspired. I started by creating a tone-on-tone background with the wide striped stencil and some slate cardstock. I carefully taped the cardstock to the stencil, making sure it was straight before really sticking it down. Then I flipped it over and used a tonic blending dauber to fill in the stripes with Catherine Pooler Blackjack ink. I used more of a back and forth motion here so that I wouldn't move the stencil. Next, I used the pot of flowers from the Mother's Day stamp set and some Twilight ink along with my mini MISTI to stamp the image for some no-line Copic coloring. I used the coordinating die to cut it out, and then I chose a muted palette of Copic markers to do the coloring. I used 3 toner grays to put some dimension on the vase, and then I chose 2 shades of each color, a yellow, a corally pink, and 2 different green combinations to fill in the rest. Next, I used the new Lemongrass ink direct to paper to create a strip of colored cardstock that will ground my focal image. Lemongrass is a fresh greeny yellow that is a perfect modern contrast to my gray background. Once that was dry, I lined the same wide striped stencil up over top, vertically this time, and I went over it with the same ink to get a subtle tone-on-tone look. For the next element, I used the smaller Scallop circle frame die, but I kept the center. In fact, I placed the center back into the die and blended blackjack ink over it. This technique was used on my inspiration card, and it's a good reminder of something I haven't seen done in quite a while. The die leaves a white frame around the ink blending that really helps the die cut to pop. My inspiration also used pearl embellishments, so I got out my favorite new tonic Dream Drops in Indigo Eclipse, which adds a beautiful neutral shimmer. I squeezed a small amount out on each of the scallops on the die cut, and after a few seconds they settled into a smooth, round, iridescent drop. I set both pieces of the circle die cut aside while I worked on my sentiment. I started with one of the dies from Stitched Labels 1, and I put it in my mini MISTI, holding it in place with a magnet in case I needed to stamp it more than once. I grabbed a small thank you sentiment from Animal Signs and lined it up close to the end before stamping it with VersaFine Onyx ink. This ink always gives a nice, crisp, dark black impression. There's a lot of elements to this card, and finally it was time to assemble them all. I trimmed the gray panel and attached it to a white card base. I also trimmed the yellow strip so that it would fit perfectly between 2 of the darker gray stripes, and then I adhered it directly on top. Next, I glued the sentiment label to the right edge of the yellow strip. When I grabbed the 2 pieces of the scallop circle, I realized that I should have taped them together before I put the Dream Drops on the frame. I couldn't get them level. I grabbed a couple of pieces of clear tape and held the 2 pieces together so that I could make them one piece again. This will be the backdrop for the vase of flowers. I cut some foam tape and placed it so that it was sticking to both the frame and the inner piece for good support, and then I stuck it onto the card. I also added foam tape to the back of the flowers to pop them up even further. I had added Dream Drops in Luxe Gold and Love Potion to the flowers for more shimmer and dimension. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up below and subscribe for even more inspiration. Product links are below and also on my blog. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.